Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name's Brian if you happen to be new around here, but if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. And dadgum if your eyes aren't looking gorgeous today. And that's what you get for subscribing, by the way. Free compliments at the start of these videos. Now, we actually have some interesting semi-news to cover. This is a dev post. You'll notice the orange outline on the thumbnail itself. And over on the Fresh Start server thread and question mark, which I'll include a link in the description if you guys want to go read the whole history of it, the devs have responded, "Hey all, we hear you on Fresh Start servers and we think they're cool too. We'll have more information in the coming weeks." And that is essentially the news piece of this post. I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about the pros and cons, what I want to see with the Fresh Start server mindset, and kind of explore a couple of ideas here. There's a couple questions this video is going to ask, and I hopefully will get you guys to weigh in with your thoughts, especially about this, because I've seen a lot of discussion and disagreement about this already in the comment section here on this channel over the course of several videos, as we've kind of have been asking this question: will we see Fresh Start servers? And so if you guys aren't aware what a Fresh Start server is, just to make sure we're on the same page, it's no server transfer ins. It's a brand new server and everybody starts fresh, just like level 1, just like day 1 launch. But in this case, it would be without all the bugs. It would be how the game is today if everybody was starting brand new today. And so there is a demand for this, but I don't know if that demand is sustainable. And so kind of what I'm going to explore here in this video, guys, the pros and the cons. And more than anything else, PvP players out there, you might want to stick around to the end of the video because I'm going to address you guys directly at that point. But first and foremost, when I think about the pros and cons, the pros section easily relive the launch. If you guys were there at launch, it was magical. I still feel like the game is magical, but there's nothing like stepping into a brand new MMORPG. There's nothing like the excitement, the fervor, and the energy that everybody is just bringing to it. Obviously, this would be that experience, but without the bugs. Then you also have the fresh characters racing for control. I start to think about maybe this would be some kind of promotion thing that you would see them do with streamers, and immediately as a content creator myself, I could I roll my eyes, right? Like I could see that, but I could think that could also fall into the cons section. So maybe we'll list that both as a pro and as a con in terms of marketing and getting the name out there with the big streamers. But at the same time, I hope it's not just one Fresh Start server and then they just flood all the big streamers into it, because then at the end of the day, you that could kill the experience that some, especially hardcore players who've been wanting this experience, have lived this entire time. But obviously with this new experience, you still have all the new player experience that would be dropping in around that same time. You'd have new weapons, and you would just have this experience 1 year post the launch of the game. And again, this would help alleviate some queues. However, in the cons section, how long is a Fresh Start server a Fresh Start server? This is actually just really the first question to you guys. Like, we talking 6 weeks? We talking 12 weeks? Like, at what point is that Fresh Start server open for transfer? That's the question that I have, because at the end of the day, like, my concern, the biggest concern is that with a Fresh Start server, people just kind of eventually like, well, that was kind of fun. And then they either go back to their main character or they just kind of take a break until the next Fresh Start server. And then, you know, in both the pro and the con, like that could end up being something that was, you know, kind of a yearly celebration, a race, etc., taking in advantage of all the new systems, and, you know, and honestly, that could be some interesting entertainment if they ended up deciding to go that route. We've seen like things with EverQuest and their progression servers that, you know, kind of relive how these, you know, expansions kind of dropped one after the next. And so it would be an interesting take on the world of New World with that approach. But in that vein, though, the biggest weakness when it comes down to the needs that any Fresh Start server would have to I think, maintain its stability and its value along, you know, down the road, would have to be cross, you know, play with especially matchmaking of the OPR, the arenas, and expeditions. Like any instance-based content that the game has, adding in that cross server play would ultimately ensure that any Fresh Start server, once it kind of matures into where it's no longer a Fresh Start server, it has the ability to be maintained and sustained, because there is a demand that players have for lower pop servers. There are players who would be just happy to play on a server with a 600 player on average population, but when it comes down to it, like you don't want to be cut off from all the other content. And being that several of the modes of this game depend on the biggest population possible, that's just where the smaller servers have suffered over the course of this last year. So addressing that actually fixes a lot of problems, not with fresh start servers and not with the existing servers. It literally would solve a ton of problems, especially when it comes to just any piece of instance content this game offers. Now, there's a bigger, grander conversation to be had there, and we'll wait and save those for more information from the devs until we have actual details before we just go on rampant speculation. And the goal isn't to get anybody's hopes up. The goal is just to literally talk about this and hopefully set a kind of a monotoned expectations when it comes down to it, so we're not overhyping it, but we're not at the same time unaware of it in that regards. But before we talk about PvP, guys, if you've enjoyed the video so far, hitting that like button, share button. If you haven't subscribed yet, let me know in the comments if this is a video that earns it, and I'd love to welcome you to the channel below. Also, if you're not aware, we have a podcast. It airs every Wednesday over on Ginger Prime if you want to tune in for the live shows. But if you want to just check out the MP3, search Epic Loot Radio or check the links in the description. Also, feel free to join into the Discord if you want to get involved in the community and have some more New World content in your feed on a semi-daily basis. But anyhow, I want to talk to the PvPers out there. If they went into a fresh start server, a part of me just says, why can't they also make a dedicated standalone PvP version server of this game? Not that the whole game has to be wild PvP. And if you're listening and you don't like PvP, like, I understand it. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that you have to accept PvP. In fact, I don't think MMOs are designed in that way. But we can't sit here and discount that there are people who want that experience. And my question that I've had for the longest time, but with all these different MMOs, is that there is a demand for more hardcore, especially open world content. Why can we not just have a server to put that into, kind of like a call to action, and also at the same time a line in the sand? Like, you guys say that you want this, and so we made this. Do you show up, or is it just words? Is it just like hot air, just going like, yeah, I'll play as soon as they have a dedicated PvP server, and then they add the dedicated PvP server and nobody shows up? Now, it's mine, actually, like, it would be my greatest interest to actually play on a dedicated PvP server for this game. I don't know if it would be my main character's focus, because I love kind of that community and the ability to kind of say if I want to be in PvP mode or not. And that's just the nature of where I am in life. But there was a time, especially when I was younger, that it was all about the PvP. And in this case, I would think it would be really cool to see what the devs could do. And this ties right into that idea of a fresh start server. If they're willing to do something like that, if they're willing to kind of go out and create special rule sets around servers, it would be interesting to see if they would go a little bit further and try and address the player population that wants that always flagged PvP. I don't know if that would mean that they would have to delete the faction system within that always flagged and literally bring in a justice-based system, because when you're just always fighting, like, the question is how does it get structured? Or keep it exactly the same way it is, but you could never just unflag from PvP, and the only places that are safe are sanctuary, like the cities and what have you. It'd be really interesting as just a thought experiment when it comes to MMORPGs, because I know a lot of people have expressed their concern about Ashes of Creation's PvP mode, but at the same time, it's still on paper. Ashes has got several years before it's released, and it'd be interesting to see how big of a demand that is. Do they fill one server? Do they have to make multiple servers? And so that's something that I think we should advocate for, especially if we get a fresh start server in this case, because that tells me that, anything is possible, and maybe that's going to be something that helps out in the long run. Anyway, guys, those are my thoughts, especially this is a longer post, obviously just off of a bit of information here from the devs regarding fresh start servers. Love to know what you think. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully I'll see you in my next one. If you're looking for more YouTube content to watch, YouTube's got a couple of different check options over here on the left. Hopefully you guys enjoy either one, or you can always check the channel homepage for even more content. I got it all broken up in guides, discussion, news, etc. So hopefully you find that easy to use and to navigate. Thanks so much for being here. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and hopefully I'll see you next time. But until then, take care.